What happens when that guy is the DM's favorite? Let me describe the situation. So I've been sitting on this one, partly because it's still ongoing, but also because I kept hoping that things would change. I've given up on that hope due to the circumstances that will soon become apparent. So here begins the tale of LARS, Viking berserker, in a reasonably diverse party of adventurers. There's Anna the Warlock, from Africa, Zeppo the Eldritch Knight, from Asia, and Proxen the Ranger, indigenous North American. The countries matter, you see, because the party has been brought together after a world-spanning calamity by a demigod of some power. The party is tasked with retrieving the magical MacGuffins that will stop the calamity from progressing any further. It needs to be said at the start that we are all homebrewed and overpowered in some ways. We're using completely unbalanced classes from the Unearthed Arcana subreddit and D&D wiki. Magic items are flowing like cheap wine, and the start of the campaign is fairly inspiring. I'm looking at this game and thinking it's something I would like to play for the long term. There were two very small red flags, one in-game and one out-of-game, that in hindsight should have set me up to know what was going on. Red flag number 1. We automatically start in Lars's hometown, fixing issues directly affecting his people, and since this is his place, the power-ups available here are geared specifically to him. Now, we're all overpowered, but this sets Lars up as a step above the already overpowered group. Lars is, now and forever, capable of ending encounters with his new power, and a lucky roll. A roll to hit wish spell. That's not what it's called in-game, but that is its effect. Lars makes a wish, and he rolls to see if the magic happens. There is no penalty for a failed roll. Red flag number 2. Lars is the player's line to the DM. It's extremely funny in hindsight, although no one commented on it at the time. But in order to set up a session, we do not message the DM. We make sure Lars is available, and then Lars gets the GM to show up. If Lars cannot play, he doesn't notify the DM, and we don't play. Even though this is supposed to be a West Marches light game, where missing a session or a mission is fine. DM is on Discord and connected to us through the server. He just doesn't respond to any direct messages about scheduling. Scheduling is done via Lars, at least to start. So we fix Lars's village and surroundings for now, and continue to play with the mission that sends us to Atlantis to recover MacGuffin number 1. I like DM's style, except that anytime Lars is put off by an encounter, he pulls the wish it cord. Even in situations where the rest of the party is handling it, but his rolls are off, or his particular build is not great for a particular encounter, Lars calls out for a wish. He has a very bad case of main characteritis, and proceeds to prove it by trying to be the moral center and face of our party. This is troublesome, as the DM proceeds to throw twist in, and Lars drags us around picking and choosing our quests and our options based on his interpretation of his alignment. Chaotic good. We are tasked with killing a dragon. No, wait, the dragon is misunderstood. Now we have to take out the high priest who gave us the quest. No, wait, the priest was tricked by the witch in the north. The rest of the party, basically playing neutral mercenaries, kept reminding Lars about our actual mission, the MacGuffin, and how finishing any of the quests we've been given gives us our next step. But no, we are going to follow whatever his moral compass says. Complaints to the DM about Lars forcing the party to follow his own concepts are met with a shrug and a comment that in-party conflict must be handled in-party. We talk it out with Lars, and in conversation, Lars agrees that we will not take the next twist. We will finish the quest, get the MacGuffin, and move on. So on quest 4 of 1, No, not a mistake. To earn this MacGuffin, all 3 other party members are set up, narratively, in whole party agreement to finish the hag coven behind the witch who tricked the priest who wanted the dragon taken out. DM presents another moral twist about how the hags are protecting the local ecosystem from the ravages of the human city. And without consulting anyone else, Lars immediately puts down his axe and calls for dialogue. Without talking to one another about it, Anna, Zeppo, and Proxen call for initiative and attack. Lars is upset, and Lars sulks and refuses to attack, spending his turns interfering with the other PCs trying to continue dialogue. He is rebuffed by all 3 players, and half of the hags go down. So Lars pulls his wish it on the party. It should end here, but I am having a riot with the other players, and even with Lars when he's not up on his own accomplishments. We have a nice rapport going about interactions between Vikings and Skraelings, and the chance to play in a campaign where the players are bonkers overpowered is nice and refreshing. So after some discussion, we move on. Is the wish it removed? No. It's just made accessible to all of the players, and now there are on average 2 wish-its per session. 2 of us are hesitant to use it because we hate the idea of it and don't want to encourage it, although we have both pulled that cord a couple of times. Quests continue, Lars continues to be Lars, and we move on from Mission 1 to Mission 2. Mission 2 is actually quite short, and with everyone having access to the wish-it, we are less cognizant of Lars standing above the party, right until the end. Mission 2 involves getting in the middle of a squabble between 2 competing artificers, and involves all party members getting upgraded, futuristic versions of their weapons, and other fun things. It's fun. It's explosion-y. Lars is specifically told that we are staying on mission no matter what, and then it ends with all of the labs and all of the weapons going up in flames, because the weapons couldn't leave the labs. They were kept there by some kinda techno magic, but it didn't matter, because we all lost our newfangled weapons. Yeah, said Lars. So instead of the +3 to hit 1d12, 1d10 lightning great axe Lars had when he went into the laboratories, Lars gets to walk out with his new and improved +5 to hit 2d12, 2d6 lightning handheld electro guillotine. In the laboratories, this was slightly better than the other weapons, but not enviously so. Outside the lab, we are all set back to +3, 1dx, 1d6 element weapons. We were given an incredibly vague reason for it, which was basically Lars saying, "I want this," and the DM saying, "Well, okay, you, Lars, managed to sneak yours out." So we start mission 3 with everyone side-eyeing Lars again. We call DM out on it, requiring a table talk mid-session, because the DM does not answer anyone other than Lars outside of the sessions, about how Lars is still overpowered compared to the group. Okay, DM nerfs his weapon a bit, promises that similar things for the rest of us are close by, and we continue. Lars has always wanted a specific weapon for the game anyway, a completely bonkers homebrew weapon that is essentially every magic weapon in 5e stacked on top of each other, in terms of features and stats. And here's where Mission 3 and the campaign starts to fall apart. Lars, with no actual effort, tells DM that the 3rd MacGuffin should be in his Viking homeland, which is where his superweapon is, by chance. And so, we're off to the land of the Vikings. Now I have to insert here that Lars is obviously Viking obsessed. He's dropping Scandinavian monsters and names and deities in chat, and DM follows suit. Even in Atlantis, there are Norse gods and monsters. The laboratories of the artificers ran on runic magic. Lars's obsession directed our games. And so, we come to the land of the Vikings. We are not in a dungeon, but in a land. Our previous missions have been fairly well directed, but now we are in a more open concept setting with multiple avenues. The party wants to stay on mission. LARS wants to play a Viking campaign. So yeah, we basically forget the mission we're on. The MacGuffin is never actually mentioned again, and the calamity framing becomes a mechanical way to explain when people miss missions and nothing else, and are now a party of adventurers trying to help the brave Vikings defeat an invading army of trolls, ogres, and giants, and ninjas, just because. To the DM's credit, even in all of this, he is trying to offer the other PCs engaging bits of story that connect to their backstory or their previous play. Anna gets offered greater power in exchange for abandoning her patron for a new one, but is required to become evil as opposed to neutral. This becomes a problem later. Zeppo is offered tantalizing bits of whispered rumors about how his lost people may actually be hiding amongst the Vikings. This becomes a problem later. Proxen is directly connected to the Viking War via the slaughter of his tribe by a Viking leader who they must now offer aid. Yeah, you know where this is going. Problem later. In trying to follow their individual story bites, each of the players comes in conflict with LARS. LARS has a very definite idea about how the story is going to progress. He meets other Viking heroes, impresses them, they ask him to lead their armies. He finds his mega weapon and defeats the evil armies. LARS is chaotic good, so Anna's turn to the dark and action she roleplays with the DM's enthusiastic involvement are unacceptable. Zeppo's search for his people brings him definitely on side with the Vikings, but because he's more interested in saving villagers than impressing heroes, LARS gets angry that we're not moving on to the next impressionable hero's camp fast enough. Proxen continues to straddle the neutral line, robbing when he needs to, taking people out if he needs to, and quietly waiting for a chance for revenge. He stays on mission and gets on Lars's bad side now because he A. won't behave like a good little obedient paladin of Larsful good, and B. he generally supports Anna and Zeppo's quest more than LARS. Zeppo's character reaches a point where Zeppo isn't happy with him. The play has been good, but he has a new idea that he wants to try, and Zeppo has found some of his people and can settle down and retire. We are offered a chance to send Zeppo off with a great battle and moments of role-playing, except for one thing. The final monster we have to defeat eats magic weapons. Melee attacks with our magic weapons reduce the elemental bonus, then the 2 hit, and then they break. Now we're each carrying at least 2 magic weapons at this point, including LARS. And this sacrifice for our great friend Zeppo is worth losing out on all of them because of story, and because we know the DM will upgrade us by next session. All we have to do is defeat this monster, and LARS refuses. Although he has 2 magic weapons, we math it out and we all know that this monster is going to destroy at least 1 magic weapon and reduce the other. Guaranteed. So LARS says no, even though his weapon would still be OP compared to ours, and he is on a quest to find an even more OP weapon, but still LARS refuses, insisting that we would be fools to reduce his damage per round because it's the highest in the party. And so the Zeppo send-off battle gets solved by, you guessed it, LARS's Wish It. He wishes away a big built-up moment because he didn't want to lose any of his outrageous power, even for a session or 2. And it bothers the other party members a lot, because he's a whiny main character who is unwilling to sacrifice for his friends. LARS was part of the discussion about the math involved and how we could take the beast down, and did not object then, and then just dropped out because he didn't want to hurt his DPR while other PCs had already lost bits of their weapons. A fact which was not retconned. We just lost out. This especially bothered Zeppo, since his big moment was turned into Lars' victory, including praise for Lars from NPCs. Zeppo's new character is Evil, a summoner of demons and devils and enslaved monsters, something he ran by DM and Lars before signing back on. Zeppo number 2 joins the party, specifically to fight the trolls, and collect specimen and parts to add to his menagerie of monsters to summon and enslave. Zeppo number 2 plays his character perfectly. He is evil, but he works with the party because their interests align. There are moments of PG-13 rated gore when he collects some specimens, but nothing too graphic or even evil. And then Lars has to miss some sessions due to work. The rest of the party has a blast without Lars. There's no one telling us what to do or how to play. We've all given up the wish-its by now, since we are confident in our ability to play scenarios out, and we get some more personalized stuff. Anna walks the line between evil and neutral beautifully, and Proxen gets a chance to take out the Viking general who took out his family. Plot armor means that this doesn't even affect the war really. Someone else just steps in, and the DM finally starts acknowledging messages from other players to set up sessions, as Lars is gone for a few weeks, and if he doesn't, we don't get to play. And then Lars comes back late. We are just finishing up with Proxen's assassination of the general, which everyone knows out of character and no one knows in character, and we encounter an enemy scouting party. We defeat the scouts and capture an important NPC. We question him, get some information out of him, and this is where Lars shows up. Zeppo number 2 and Proxen have already had a discussion prior to Lars' arrival about how the NPC cannot be let go. He overheard too much of the party's plans for taking the evil armies down. Proxen wants to take him out. Proxen does not and has not left live enemies behind him, and Zeppo number 2 wants to harvest him as a specimen. Lars walks in after the NPC's death has occurred, objects, even though he's seen Proxen do this multiple times before, and objects to Zeppo number 2's actions, and gets the immediate side-eye again. He wasn't even present, he just showed up and inserted himself because he happened to get off work early and was invited to listen in to the chat. He chews out Zeppo number 2, chews out Proxen for something he shouldn't have witnessed, and for something he doesn't know in character, and then immediately leaves. The next day, a text update is posted in the Discord. Lars has had a solo mission with the DM immediately after the party session, and in that mission, he single-handedly took out a named NPC war beast that we had been planning to take out for a few sessions. Proxen's chance to take out the general was created by a meeting to bring his armies to the fight with the monster, essentially a weakened Tarask in the form of a woolly mammoth. This is the first of 3 armies we needed to recruit to fight this beast, and we hadn't spoken to the other 2. We expected heavy casualties in all 3 armies, and we all made backup characters in case the honestly expected happens. And Lars soloed it. And then Lars disappears. Well, actually he goes on a quest to find himself or something, so Lars can retire the character. Although he pops up every now and again, mainly to info dump about Norse stuff or direct us to the next locale, because he's still pushing that. Lars disappears. And then Lars number 2 shows up. Lars number 2 shows up and is the single most powerful character I have ever seen in an RPG, including original recipe Lars with all his fancy weapons. and he puts his distaste for the party at the very front of his character. LARS number 2 is 4 different broken homebrew classes with feats and boons aplenty. He sees the party as weak and unworthy and has heard of our misdeeds. He solos encounters that were built for our already outrageously overpowered crew. He doesn't need a wish it anymore because he has a god on retainer. Norse, of course. And I think that's where the story and my part in this campaign comes to an end. I was already bored with playing a small part in someone else's story, but the DM kept it interesting enough to stay. But with OP LARS number 2 gunning for us, I don't feel like squishing into Lars's idea of what is correct at the table. It's really sad. OP was really trying their best to enjoy a situation and got a taste of what they wanted for a few weeks, and then it was just taken away. Unfortunately, that's what happens when red flags are aplenty. But I think for OP that even if there were some negatives about the whole situation, the DM did do his best to sweeten a bitter situation. But the DM is also to blame, so there's really no winner here. Except Lars. What do you all think about this situation?